Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to talk about the 6 books that I read in June. And just disclaimer, if you hear any funny noises or whining or licking, we have a friend behind me here. Augie is a little bit attached to my side because there's currently a thunderstorm going on outside and he does not like those. So just bear with me if you hear any funny little things or see a little nose. But I did read a total of 6 books in the month of June, and I read 5 of them physically and I read 1 of them on, well, I listened to it on audio. So starting at the beginning of the month, I read Who is Mod Dixon by Alexandra Andrews, and I was recommended this by my friend Jordan from the channel Sorry Book Solid, and a lot of people told me to go into this blind. So I did, and like I kind of see why, but I also kind of don't. This one didn't really work for me. It was 3 stars. I just felt like it was just kind of meh, kind of boring. If you liked this, or if you were interested in like the Anna Delvey story, like My Friend Anna, or the Netflix show about Anna Delvey, then you might like this. But I think if I hadn't been so invested in the Anna Delvey story, I might have liked this a little bit more, but this just felt like not as good version of that, honestly. And I think a lot of that was because of like Morocco and things like that. But this essentially follows a woman who becomes the personal assistant for an author, Mod Dixon. And nobody knows who Mod Dixon is. Completely anonymous. Nobody knows who this person is, where they live, anything about them other than this really great novel that Mod Dixon wrote. And so this woman gets the opportunity to be the personal assistant for Mod Dixon. So it just kind of goes from there, and strange things ensue, and it was just boring, and the shock or the twist, I was like, okay. So I just gave this 3 stars. I don't think it's a bad book. It didn't really do anything for me. It wasn't necessarily thrilling, and yeah, I think you could skip on it and probably be all right. But that's just my opinion. Next, we have The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda, and I read this from my friend Jessie's book club, the Sleep When I'm Dead book club. This is what she discussed with Elise from A Virgo Rising Reads. I will link their discussion down below. Definitely go and check out the discussion. It was a good discussion. I think this was a good book club book because there's a lot to unpack here. I just didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. So this is about a group of people that when they were teenagers, they were in this horrible bus accident together and they survived. Some of their friends didn't, but they did. And so now every summer they go to this beach house in the Outer Banks in North Carolina and just kind of spend a week together, kind of commiserating, like that kind of herd survival guilt type of thing, trying to deal with that as adults. And the girl that we're following just really doesn't want to go. She's just feeling like, I just want to be at home with my boyfriend. I don't want to go and be with those people. Like, I'm kind of over it. I'm trying to distance myself. But she learns that one in their group had committed suicide. So then she's like, okay, I really do need to go. And I felt like if you hadn't told me that this was in the Outer Banks, it could have been any beach anywhere. It became pretty clear to me that Megan Miranda's probably never been to the Outer Banks, just because, I don't know, as somebody who lives in Virginia, which is the next state over from North Carolina, and has been to the Outer Banks multiple times, I wanted like the nostalgia of those kind of typical things that you know about Outer Banks and the typical things that you would see and the atmosphere, and it just wasn't there for me. Also, there was a lot of back and forth, flipping back and forth from timelines, flipping back and forth from points of view. I felt like half of the characters in this could have been deleted and it would have been the exact same story. I was bored. I felt like it was a bunch of rich, snobby young adults that weren't doing anything for themselves, weren't trying to help themselves in any way. And I just, yeah, it just did not work for me. But Megan Miranda, I don't think is the author for me, but this cover, it was just so beautiful. And I really was anticipating a great beachy summer thriller, and this unfortunately just kind of missed the mark. Next, I read Drowning by TJ Newman, and I read her first book last year, which was Falling, and I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorite books of 2021. So it wasn't last year, it was 2 years ago. But I absolutely love it. I bought a copy just to have because it is a 5-star read and it is just amazing. So when her second book came out, I was like, okay, I have to get it. And I did get this as a advanced listener copy from Libro FM. So thank you so much to Libro FM for gifting me this copy. But this one I gave 4 stars. So I did really enjoy it, but it wasn't like an all-time favorite like the first one was. Falling was like top tier, can do no wrong. And while Drowning was good, I don't think it had the same oomph for me. So Drowning is about a flight that crashes into the ocean and everybody's stuck underwater. And so they're trying to be rescued, and they're communicating with the outside, and there's like the Coast Guard and the Navy all trying to figure out how to get them out of the water safely without killing all of them and them all drowning. And so it was very emotional. There's a lot of talk about death. There's a lot of death in this book. I will just say that right now. Like, definitely check trigger warnings because there are a lot of them. And I did tear up at one point, but it wasn't like full on waterworks, but I did tear up. And there's a little bit of like romance in here, but it's definitely a high octane, very much, it's high octane, but it's also very character driven, which is strange to say, but like really you just have these people sitting on a plane at the bottom of the ocean, and then you have the people up at the top trying to get them out. And like, that's literally the whole plot, but there is so much character development and you learn so much about these people and they experience something horrific together. And so I liked all of that. I think that with Falling, there is an aspect of, like a terrorist attack. The plane was hijacked, and as somebody who is from Washington, DC, and literally felt it sitting in my living room when the plane hit the Pentagon on 9/11, I think I just really attached myself to that story, having lived through that and seen my neighbors and things like that that were at the Pentagon and people that I knew that worked downtown in DC be so traumatized by 9/11. I think I just really connected to Falling. Whereas Drowning, I've never had really a fear of a plane crashing into an ocean. Maybe that should be a fear of mine. I don't know. It's just never been a fear. I am much more afraid of a plane being hijacked just because I have that very real, visceral memory of 9/11. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think I just didn't connect to the story nearly as much because for me, Falling was just very, very real and raw, and Drowning, I just didn't connect to the fear and anxiety quite as much. So it was a very good book. I highly recommend it, but please check trigger warnings because there is a lot in here. But TJ Newman is a wonderful writer, and TJ Newman, she was actually a flight attendant for many years, so she has a really great perspective on, you know, things that happen on airplanes, and it's just very real. And as somebody who traveled exclusively for 2 years and was on a plane literally every single week, sometimes twice a week, I really appreciated the way she did it. And if you are afraid of flying, I don't think this will make you more afraid of flying. I think she does a really good job at showing you like how much training pilots and flight attendants have and how their main job is your safety. So I don't think this would like make you more afraid of flying, if that's, because I know sometimes that's what people are afraid of with reading TJ Newman's books, but they really are so well done. Okay, now let's talk about the 2 books that I read for the Suns Out Books Out readathon. So Suns Out Books Out was a weekend readathon that I participated in this month. I vlogged my experience. I'll link that vlog as well, and I'll link it up in the cards here, whichever side the cards go on. And that was hosted by my friends Liv from Liv's Library and Keisha from A Book Like You, Ponytails and Paperbacks, and The Literary Lane. So there you go. I think that's all of them. I will leave them all linked down in the description as well. I'll link all the things. But I read 2 books during that weekend readathon. The first is a short story called The Swimmers by Julie Otsuka, and this is very literary, it's very lyrical almost in the way it's written, and it's about this community pool that's underground, and it's about all the people that go to the pool, and it's very like herd mentality. It's like, this is our pool, we do this, and it's talking about the different types of the people and the different quirks and just different things that you would see at a pool. And then the pool gets a crack in it. And so all these people are realizing this like safe place may not, you know, be here for them much longer, and they all kind of have to deal with that. And then the book kind of switches gears from the pool and starts talking about one of the members of the pool who is suffering from dementia and Alzheimer's and has to be put in a care facility, and her relationship with her daughter and all of that. And this really hit home for me because I, in that vlog, I talk about I have a family member who is in care for memory loss and things like that. And that family member that I referred to in that vlog actually passed on 2 days ago. So that's the update on that. And while it was, you know, expected because he was in hospice, that doesn't make it any better. So this definitely has I definitely see this differently now than when I read it even 2 weeks ago, just because of, in light of what's happened the past couple of days. So definitely really, really good. At the time I rated it 4 stars, but it might be 5 stars, especially in light of everything that I've gone through the past couple of days. But yeah, for now I'm holding it 4 stars, but if I keep thinking about this book the way I have been, then I'll move it up to 5. I am happy to say that the other book that I read for that weekend readathon was a 5 star. So this is Fly Girl by Ann Hood, and Ann Hood was a flight attendant in the 70s, and this book was just so good. I learned so much about the airlines, about flight attendants, about the origin of flight attendants, how it even became a job, and all of the quirks and intricacies that go along with it. And she starts from the first time she even was on a plane and learned what a flight attendant was, to the application process, to the interview process, to the training. And it's actually interesting because I follow a lot of flight attendant YouTubers and Instagrammers, and it's amazing how like similar it was to this. I thought surely a lot of that had changed, but there was so many similarities. The only difference is that now people have cell phones and tablets, and at the time they had, you know, home phones and pagers and things like that, but there really aren't a whole lot of differences. And talks about some of the airlines that have shut down that we don't have anymore, and, you know, kind of the ones that bought each other up. And this was just so good and so nostalgic. And it really just, I could envision myself in that time where flying was just so pristine and regal, and you had to dress up to be on a plane, and they fed you multiple course meals, and just, I could visualize all of that so well. And so I just highly recommend this. And the last book I read was The Lies I Tell by Julie Clark, and I gave this 3 stars. This one I don't think was anything special. It's about a woman who is a con artist, and you have this writer who is trying to out her. So she's trying to kind of follow her life and figure out which aliases she used and where she came from, and just kind of do this whole expose on this con woman who cons men out of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. And it just wasn't very believable for me. I couldn't get behind the writer, you know, trying to pose and be friends with the con artist. I couldn't get behind some of the things the con artist was doing. Like at 16, how do you know to con a man out of $60,000 from his bank account? Like nobody knows how to do that at 16, you know? Like when I was 16, I was just trying to get a driver's license. Like I wasn't worried about embezzling funds, you know? So it just wasn't very believable to me. But I do see where people like this. I don't have much interest in money and laundering and real estate, and there was a lot of that in here, and I just found myself skimming some of the parts. So I did give this one 3 stars, but it was a short, quick read. I think I read it in 2 sittings. And so yeah, I've heard good things. So if this sounds like something that you would like, then maybe give it a try. It just didn't really work for me. Okay, those were all 6 books that I read. I only have one not with me here physically, but yeah, so I didn't read a whole lot this month, but as you heard earlier, I've had a lot going on this month, a lot in my family. I've had a lot going on in my personal life, a lot going on health-wise. So it's been a rough one, but hopefully July is better on the reading end and on the kind of life experiences end as well. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them. Hit that subscribe button, it really helps out my channel, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!